That morning, the key didn't fit in the lock, and that was the moment my life took a different turn. The tiny sound, a missed click, wasn't from the door lock, but from something else, from the phone I'd just put down. That missed sound was enough to loosen everything I'd built over the past 67 years, and strong enough to shatter the false shell of peace I'd worn for the past 3 years. This story doesn't start with the door. It starts with a forgotten phone call. An accident as small as a speck of dust, yet as heavy as a roof. I'm Arthur Bennett. At this age, they say you should learn to put it down gently. But my hands still smell of oak, my nails still have cement dust, and my heart is still where Maggie left it 3 years ago. The house in Denver. We built it with sweat and vows. Maggie always said, "This house wasn't built with bricks and mortar, Arthur. It was built with your patience and love." Every screw, every stroke of the plank was a slow-motion film of youth. The grandfather clock, a 14th anniversary gift, still tapped steadily like an old carpenter tapping a ruler on the back of a plank, reminding, straight, steady. That night I ate meatloaf according to Maggie's recipe. I never sprinkled a pinch of nutmeg exactly like her hand, nor could I imitate the way she set the table. The tablecloth slightly askew, deliberately exposing a beautiful corner of the wood. After eating, I washed the dishes, wiped the morning sun-veined granite counter, adjusted Maggie's photo frame on the mantelpiece, and then the phone rang. Lauren called. Her name appeared, and I felt a spark of fire bloom in my chest. It was a simple joy, the last bit of warmth from this roof. "It's Dad, honey. I'm fine. Just finished dinner, thinking about turning on the TV." I didn't say it was a Tuesday reheat, nor that I'd spent the previous hour staring at Maggie's photo until the dust on the frame disappeared, as if wiping it away might bring her back. "Have you eaten enough? I've got the delivery app installed." Lauren's voice was clear, but I sensed a hint of tension. Her worry or something else? "It's okay. Oh, I was a little absent-minded yesterday. Forgot to turn off the stove under the coffee pot." Luckily, I smelled it in time. I'd lied. It wasn't absent-mindedness, it was exhaustion from a day of fixing Maggie's rocking chair. I wanted to tell her, but I was afraid. Afraid she'd see it as a sign of aging, of weakness, of my inability to take care of myself. I pictured the crease between her brows, just like her mother's, the way she worried about me. "Dad, maybe we could have someone come over and check on you?" Her voice was hesitant, like a worker trying to drill a hole without making any noise. "Ethan said he was fine. How are you doing in Scottsdale?" I tried to steer the conversation in a different direction. Lauren was always proud of her work. I wanted to hear her talk about her success. It was part of the price I was paying. "It's been a long time. I have an investor meeting tonight." "I love you." It wasn't a goodbye, it was a prayer. I prayed for his happiness, and I prayed for my life to be worth living. "I love you too, Dad." I put the receiver down, but the beep didn't ring. The rustling in my bag was still there, and then Lauren's voice fell out, small and sharp as a needle through fabric. "Ethan, you see? Dad's going downhill. He forgot to turn off the stove. What if it caught fire? It's time for a nursing home, Lauren." Ethan's voice was as flat as a balance sheet. "You're a burden. This house is close to $1 million. Denver is probably over 900,000 now if you pitch it well. Sell it. Put him in a decent place, but not too expensive. We'll put him in a house in Golden, overlooking the mountains. Call him tonight. He'll be very touched. The longer he waits, the more confused he'll be, the easier it will be. Hit me when you still believe in me. The phone fell onto the oak floor I'd laid myself 24 years ago. The sound of shattering plastic and glass mingled with the sound of my heart breaking. Maggie looked at me from the photo frame. Her eyes, once a place where I found peace, now mirrored my pain. Sometimes the one who's gone understands the one who's left better than we think. In her eyes, I saw a hint of cloud, disappointment, wakefulness, or pain I didn't know. I sat in the dark. The grandfather clock tapped against my chest. Outside, the lavender Maggie planted still lingered in the night. I wondered, how did I raise a child who would charge her father for the roof? The question drilled into me like a drill, shattering all the trust I'd built up over my life. Turning on the lights, the golden light fell on the burgundy sofa where Lauren had curled up to do her homework, on the coffee table I'd built with leftover wood, on the scratch from the toy car she'd crashed into when she was 6. Every scratch, every crack in the wood floor, every chip in the marble countertops tells a story. I opened the drawer, a stack of papers. On top, a tuition receipt for $52,000 for 4 years, each number a night of floor laying for a friend, a weekend hammer. Maggie rubbed my shoulder and said, "Arthur, don't be so good you forget yourself." She saw my exhaustion, but all I saw was her beaming smile. Below, a wedding bill for $29,500, Lauren's dream wedding, and me for 6 months working on the project, calculating every penny and putting it all in. Then came the months of staying with someone else after Ethan lost his job. For now, Dad. The bills were piling up. I didn't count. I'll pay you back when I'm okay. A forgotten promise. 2000 IE $50 for Ethan's BMW transmission. I drained the rest of my emergency fund. The sentences, "You're like a second father to me. I'm lucky to have this family," flew like beer foam. I went up to the bedroom. The house papers were in the bottom drawer. Arthur and Margaret Bennett, 2000. Maggie's name was the trailing line now. The property stood alone through inheritance. Her reading glasses were folded neatly by the lamp. A final warning. Don't let them take advantage of you. The pane was like shards of glass, but underneath the living wood was hardening. I took the business card she'd forced me to keep the day she got sick. Graham Porter, real estate lawyer. The next morning, I drove down Colfax Avenue, the familiar streets suddenly unfamiliar. Graham's office was small, thick bookshelves, family photos, a golden retriever smiling in a frame. Graham, 53, listened to everything, didn't interrupt. "You have the whole thing in your name," he said. "No one has the right to force you to sell or force you to leave. The house is yours. And if I want to sell, you can bring it up now. Denver is hot. See you for cash, less than a week and a half." "I know what I'm doing," I said. "Not tear down, but save." That night, I called Kevin Whitaker, a 41-year-old broker who specializes in quick sales, clean closings. At 2:30 p.m., he stood on the porch, his eyes shining at the sight of the granite gold. We went room by room. I told him about the hidden steel beams that opened up the living room, the built-in bookcases for Maggie. Great housekeeper. Kevin pointed at the measuring device. In this area, a house like this goes for $860,930,000. I'm offering $905,000. Fast and beautiful. Numbers can't buy memories, but they can buy freedom. I have a cash investment group, Kevin said. No loans, few conditions, close in 8 business days. Let's do it. The next morning, the contract, notarized, coffee was neatly arranged. I read it like a blueprint. $905,000, 8 business days, minimal conditions. I signed, my hand as steady as the first day I stood on the scaffolding. While I waited, I went to Frontier First Bank to open a private account. Olivia Reed, about 45, spoke warmly. Wire closing date, card, checkbook, extra security. I rented Maple Ridge Senior Residences on Lowry, a 1-bedroom patio with a couch under a maple tree. I paid cash to change the locks on the entire old house. I installed a tiny camera disguised as a charger, Wi-Fi, live stream, motion detection, 10-hour battery, $139, express shipping $35. No knives, let the truth cut itself. I wrote a letter to stick on the inside of the door, at eye level, right, tear, until the words were calm and sharp. To Lauren and Ethan, Dad heard the conversation about the nursing home and the money from the house. The house sold for $905,000. The money is in a new account, safe. Dad moved to a place where he is respected, not suffered. I hired someone to pack our things and sent them to Front Range Moving and Storage, East Colfax. 28 days free, then pay the fees. I gave you 41 years. You responded with a plan to move me and sell the house. This lesson was expensive. I hope it was worth it. Dad. I sealed the letter. I plugged in the charger, the camera in the lower socket, a full view of the foyer. I deliberately cracked the kitchen window, enough for the impatient. The signing date, the notary office operated like a watch factory. Signed, fingerprinted, checked. The transfer confirmation printed a series of numbers that glittered like silver. Kevin shook hands. A new beginning, Mr. Bennett. I drove home for the last time. The house was no longer mine, but I had 28 days to sort it out. I stood on the porch, my fingers touching the door screws I had previously torqued like math problems. Done, Maggie, I whispered. Then I left, to an apartment that smelled of floor cleaner. No memories, so no heartbreak. The next morning, I went into the old house, set up the camera, tested the app. Clear sound, no grainy image. The frame was like a stage before curtain. Friday afternoon, the phone vibrated. There was movement. The black SUV pulled up. Ethan got out, Lauren followed. They dragged their suitcases, their voices natural as if they were about to enter their own house. Lauren pulled out her key ring. Couldn't turn it. Frowning. Trying again. No. Ethan circled around, returned 3 minutes later, pale. Back door locked, garage not accepting. Call Dad. Lauren dialed the landline. I'd hung up 3 days ago. It rang into the void. You don't have a phone, she muttered, remembering that they'd neglected to buy me one. Kitchen window. Ethan. On the screen, I saw my daughter, the one who'd crawled from the refrigerator into her mother's arms, climbing back through the window her father had left open. The front door swung open. The two faced the white envelope. Lauren and Ethan. Their faces changed colors. Confusion, shock, disbelief, panic. "You sold the house!" Lauren screamed, her voice cracking. "Why did you do this to us?" Ethan snatched the letter, rereading it as if the words had changed. 905,000. The old man counted it all. Lauren sobbed. "That money is our future." Ethan smiled wryly. "Your future? This is your father. You should have handled it properly." "And you?" Lauren snapped. "You're the one who said burden, you push nursing home. Because it's true. Now no house, no money. The lease expires next week. Get a job." "Do you think they're competing to hire a consultant who was fired for shady dealings?" I turned off the screen. Curiosity led me to the truth. Truth led me to the decision. That night, I opened the 2017 Bordeaux, the special occasion bottle that hadn't been opened yet. I raised my glass to Maggie. "For you, for gentle justice." The wine was deep, long, warm. The touching moment wasn't the moment my child fell to her knees before the letter. It was the countless memory modules that made up the house. The bay window, I cut dozens of diagonal corners to the shoulder so Maggie could have a reading corner. The 5/8-inch thick oak floor, I chose it because she only said, "as long as it lasts." The cup of coffee she poured was never full, only warm in the hand. The night I came home late, she rubbed my shoulder. "Don't be so good that you forget yourself. Arthur." I packed up the things I couldn't sell. A wooden jewelry box with a scratched lid, a silver necklace from the first day we met at the fall fair, a novel clipped to page 233, a recipe book with meatloaf, a pinch of nutmeg in italics. They were me. I also brought a picture of Lauren, 6 years old, holding the dollhouse I'd built for 3 months. "Just like ours," she screamed. Yes, because I wanted her to have the world. The picture drove a knife into my chest. I wanted to be angry, but memory made love. Love is a hinge, half forgiveness, half boundary. I moved into Maple Ridge. The apartment was small, the furniture smooth, the smell of floor cleaner. I hung up a picture of Maggie, put in a pot of lavender to bring back the smell of home. In the morning, I walked to Juniper and Steam. Nina, her hair streaked with purple, smiled. "You just moved in?" "Yeah, I'm retired, looking for peace. It's really quiet here." I practiced buying, cooking, serving for one person. Everything was slow and small, but precise. In the silence, I heard my heart beat to its own rhythm. Olivia called. Money in. Card, checkbook, security. Life wrapped up in a few numbers, then opened by the same few numbers. In the afternoon, I went to the park. An old man asked my name. I said, "Arthur." We talked about oak versus walnut, self-drilling screws versus linseed oil. I understood. People are like wood, doing it right the first time. Taking care of it properly keeps its shape. Painting it to cover up a mistake. A rainy season makes it blister. At night, I wrote a small note, folded it, and put it in a jewelry box. "Lauren, I still love you, but love without boundaries will become chains. When you remember what we gave you, and when you know how to say sorry, properly, my door will still be open, but it will be a new door, where respect enters first." I did not send it. Forgiveness requires a schedule, like concrete structures need time to set. The real emotion came on the third night in the new apartment. I sat alone on a chair without a history, drank a glass of wine without a conversation partner, and understood that freedom is sometimes hollow, but warmer than living in a crowded and cold environment. The next morning, I met Mrs. Eliza in the hallway. She had lost her husband 10 years ago. She told me her son was far away, rarely called. She did not cry. I did not try to not be sad, she said. I let it pass through me like the wind, and my hands kept the things I could do, watering the plants, baking bread, calling the neighbors. The lesson was soft but hard, like good wood. I made a habit. Every morning I wrote 3 lines in my notebook. 1 curious thing I wanted to learn, today, pour over without bitterness. 1 touching thing about Maggie, today, the way she removed her hair from her ear before reading. 1 touching thing I did for myself, today, refusing to answer a call until I was ready. A week passed, and Kevin texted. The buyer was happy, praised the electricity, the water, the floors. I thought of the compliments as nails hammered into beams, firmly held because they were done right. Right then, an email from Lauren slid into my inbox. Where are you, Dad? I'll take care of it. I didn't reply, not to punish, but because the lesson took time to sink in. I set boundaries, no locks. I left the doorknob on my side. 2 days later, the phone rang from an unknown number. I answered. Dad? Lauren? Her voice was no longer thorny. I am sorry. I fell silent, giving silence a place to stand. You were greedy and afraid. You were greedy for a better house, afraid of losing your job, afraid of the future. You sold me out for something uncertain. There was no reason enough. Where are you? I asked. The lease is about to expire, Ethan. We probably won't be together anymore. I closed my eyes. A new pain has passed. The pain of a father who still loves his child despite having just been betrayed. What do you want to eat tonight? I asked, like when she was in college. I'm not hungry. Have a light meal, call me tomorrow, I'll listen. I didn't give the address. I didn't open the door right away, but I pulled up an extra chair by the table, as if saving a seat for someone who was late. The next day, Nina pushed me a slice of banana bread. My mom often forgets to turn off the phone. One day, I overheard her say, I miss you, Mom. It was both painful and funny. I laughed. That sentence, both painful and funny, is usually true. At night, I turned on the radio to listen to Moon River, Maggie's favorite song. When I reached the chorus, I fell silent. I didn't need a storm to be moved. Just a river flowing over my head, carrying the golden light that had fallen on her hair in the bay window. 3 days later, Lauren asked to meet at a 24/7 restaurant. I chose a deep table with my back to the door, a worker's habit, back against the wall, eyes looking out across the room. Lauren arrived, brown coat, hair tied back. The lines on her face made me want to hug her. The words she said made me sit still. I'm sorry, she began. There are no buts. I was wrong. We ordered chicken soup and hot tea. Do you remember when you were 6, the dollhouse Daddy made? She asked. Of course. I thought all the good things were there for me. I forgot that Dad changed shifts, had a sore back, and cracked hands because of me. I wanted to learn to be grateful again, I didn't lecture. I asked small questions. Where are you? Job search schedule? This month's expenses? Lauren answered clearly, without hiding. She asked to pay off the $2,750 BMW in installments. I nodded. No rush. What Dad needs is not money but long-term honesty. Dad, the house, is gone now? She asked, her eyes blurred. The house is still there, but it's somewhere else, I replied, pointing to my chest. The one in Maple Ridge is small but adequate, and it's clean of expectations. We ate in a polite silence. At the door, she asked, Can I call you every Wednesday night? No money, just to talk. Wednesday night, 7:30, I said, and don't forget to hang up after saying goodbye. It laughed, a tearful laugh. I continued 3 lines each morning. I learned to do a round pour-over. Nina clapped like a cheerleader. I bought a new screwdriver set, replaced the hinges on the apartment kitchen cabinets. Olivia suggested I write a will. I made an appointment with Graham Porter. I specified most of my estate to a carpentry scholarship, building at the local trade school. The rest to Lauren with conditions. Completion of a personal finance course, volunteering 48 hours a year for 2 years. I signed, not as a punishment but as a life lesson, like how I measured the straightness of a beam. Ethan emailed one afternoon. 2 dry lines asking for negotiation. I responded with just 1 line. All my decisions are legal and final. No rancor, just closing the file. The first Wednesday night, 7:28, the phone rang. It's me, Lauren said. Right on time. We talked about work, about food, about a good podcast, no mention of money. 7:58, it says hello. 8 O's, I hear the beep, the call is over. I smile, the lesson has sunk in. I go to the farmer's market this weekend. I buy a bunch of chives because Maggie used to like fried eggs with chives. In the evening, I crack the eggs, chop the chives, and sprinkle with salt. The aroma rises like a letter from the past, written in taste. I start retyping a rocking chair, a small project for the apartment balcony. Walnut, warm grain like chestnut. I cut, plane, sand. The sound of sandpaper on wood sounds like a little rain. Each slight curve of the armrest reminds me of Maggie's hand on my shoulder on windy nights. I say softly, See, where there is wood, there I am. I drive through the old street. I don't turn into the old house. The new cream curtains, the red geranium windowsill. Others have begun a friendly dialogue with the walls I built. I stand far away and bow my head. Not goodbye, but a handover. On the way home it rained. Denver rain is the kind of rain that doesn't know if it's short or long. I turned on my fog lights, remembering Maggie saying, Rain is the sky's way of sandpapering the city to make it smoother. When I got home, Lauren texted, Dad, I passed the second round of a small agency. The salary isn't great, but I can afford it. I'm taking Personal Finance 101. I simply texted back, Good, keep it up. At night, I opened my jewelry box and took out the folded paper, the unsent letter. I didn't open it. I knew I would keep it for a while, so that love and boundaries would grow together. One morning, in late spring, Nina changed her hair, a darker purple streak. She said she was going to visit her mother for 3 days. I drank my pour-overs in sequence, nodding my head as a sign of approval. Olivia called to invite me to a financial security workshop for retirees. I accepted and told the story of how I set boundaries with the lock, the letter, the charger camera. Some people were teary-eyed, not because of the $905,000, but because they were allowed to choose their own lives. Lauren called at 7:30 on Wednesday night. One day, he told me about growing cacti. Another day, he showed off his discounted running shoes. Another day, he asked for a meatloaf recipe. I read slowly, and when I got to a pinch of nutmeg, he asked, "How much is a pinch?" I laughed, with a timely apology. I finished the rocking chair. I put it on the balcony. Since then, I have listened to the wind rustling through the maple leaves, listened to the sparrows putting dots on the electric wires, listened to my heart beating as steadily and gently as the pendulum clock of yesteryear. One afternoon, Lauren said, "Dad, I want to meet you at the park near Maple Ridge. I don't need anything, I just want to sit with you." We sat for 2 hours. He told me about the times people miscalculated out of fear. I told him about the time I missed a corner of a board in a hurry and had to redo the whole frame. "It's always more expensive to redo than to do it right," I said. He laughed and admitted, "I'm redoing." I didn't say, "You forgive me," because forgiveness happened in that long series of Wednesdays. I just say, "Go on." Destiny doesn't fall from the sky. It's locked. Whichever way you turn it, life opens. That day, their key didn't fit, not because of the metal, but because of the human heart. As for me, I sharpened my own key, not to lock it, but to open it properly. Dignity, compassion, gratitude with boundaries. Night. Denver moved to get in the saddle. I closed the door, turned the key, a perfect click. On the table, Maggie's picture next to Lauren's picture at age 6. I turned off the light, letting the lavender do the rest. In the fragrant darkness, I slept in a room without old memories, but full of room for the future. Tomorrow morning, I would write 3 lines again, curious, touching, moving, like an old carpenter who remeasures the ruler every day, readjusts the plank so that his heart would remain in the right balance. If you liked this story, please like this video. Subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts on this story in the comments. To hear the next story, click the box on the left.